Okay, I'm going to go over that slide once again then. So most cardiovascular diseases are caused by atherosclerosis, which is this plaque building up in your arteries. And what's ever on the other end of that artery, remember the arteries carry blood away from the heart. So maybe it's carrying the blood to your heart or carrying the blood to your brain. Whatever's on the other end of that artery, unfortunately, doesn't get enough oxygen or nutrients, and so therefore could potentially die. So when we have atherosclerosis in our arteries also get hard. And we call that arteriosclerosis. And the arteries harden and they can't circulate the blood very well. Just like your heart pumps, your blood vessels actually dilate and constrict. And therefore, they should be very flexible and smooth. If they become hard, they can't circulate the blood very well anymore. Now you may ask what that plaque is made up of. And the color of it, you may imagine, is kind of like an ugly whitish yellow color. And that plaque is actually made of the bad cholesterol. Does anyone remember the name of bad cholesterol? What my nickname for it was? The lousy cholesterol. Say it out loud if you do. Okay, it's LDL, the lousy cholesterol. So that plaque is made of LDL, waste products, calcium, fibrin, which is almost like scar tissue. And the plaque will block blood flow through the artery. Here's a couple images of it, right? When we are born, we have a nice normal, it says smooth artery. Here's the cross section. And the blood can go through very easily, no restrictions. And then as we get older, based on different factors, we might get this plaque forming. Some of it's genetic, some of it's lifestyle factors. And this plaque, you can see it on the cross section, starts blocking the artery, and only half amount of blood can go through. Now, it depends on how much plaque builds up. Here there's none. Here there's more than half, and then here is completely blocked. If we get a situation where it's completely blocked, no blood's going through. Whatever's on the other side of this artery is going to die, whether that's the brain, and we would call that a stroke. If it's the heart itself, we call that myocardial infarction or a heart attack. It could also be like lungs or your lower extremities or your arms. It could be anything, right? It could be any organ. I'm not going to show you the video right now, but this is going to show you like normal blood flow versus how it becomes blocked. All right. And here they're talking about if the coronary arteries get blocked, that's going to lead to a heart attack. Coronary artery disease, atherosclerosis in the coronary arteries, which actually feed the heart itself. And I showed you that image earlier. It's blockages in these little arteries that are on the surface of the heart. And this leads to a heart attack, a fancy word for heart attack, myocardial infarction. Okay. The heart is not getting enough oxygen or nutrients because it's not getting enough blood flow. Okay, and you can see the plaque forming here, cholesterol and other fatty substances. Here's some signs and symptoms of a heart attack. And anytime someone has pain in their chest, also known as angina, we should call 911, right? At what age do you think coronary artery disease begins? Type it in the chat room. What age do you think coronary artery disease begins? And I'm going to take a peek in the chat room here. And Alicia, you were right when you named that LDL for the bad cholesterol. Laura, I think, is the most close answer at this point in time. It does begin in your 20s. We start getting that blockages or that plaque building up. And I'm going to ask you to name some risk factors in a little while in your group setting. But it's different for everyone. Clearly, if we have a genetic predisposition to cardiovascular disease, it may begin earlier in our years. If we don't have cardiovascular disease in our genetic, maybe it will appear later, like Patty said, like in the 50s, or Alicia said, Jamaria as well, in the 50s. There is a way to reverse some of that plaque, which we'll get to in a moment. And that basically, Patty, whatever caused the plaque to build up, we need to get rid of that. We need to get rid of the cause. So if we could eradicate those causes, the plaque will start diminishing. One of the most important factors is to increase your happy cholesterol, your HDL. Remember when we studied cholesterol and we talked about how HDL could actually pick up the bad fats and kind of carry them out the body? The more HDL you have, that's your protection against getting plaque. Who remembers how to improve their HDL levels, their happy cholesterol levels? There was one major thing you can do to improve HDL. Yes, Laura and Patty probably have the correct answer. It's any kind of exercise. If we exercise, our HDL will go up. So there's your protective mechanism. Now, if we have someone with cardiovascular disease currently, okay, and they're having, hold on, and they're having, I'm going the wrong way. They have like blocked arteries like this. We can't tell them to run and exercise because they can have a heart attack from the stress of exercising with such blockages like this. So what they will need to do is be under the guidance of like a cardiac rehab specialist who can monitor their exercise. What I'm telling you guys is if you don't have major cardiovascular disease now, we got to do the positive lifestyle behaviors now so we don't get to this bad point. So if you've not been diagnosed with cardiovascular disease, you want to start taking your precautions now. The people that you know that have elevated levels of LDL or high cholesterol or have elevated blood pressure, you know, they can start doing some simple exercises like walking, which isn't creating a large amount of stress. That will definitely improve their HDL and start, you know, kind of reversing cardiovascular disease. So cardiovascular disease does begin in our 20s. Sometimes the symptoms don't occur till many, many years later. We've talked about coronary artery disease being atherosclerosis in the heart. Think of stroke as atherosclerosis in your brain. So where is that blockage occurring is how we name these cardiovascular diseases. Okay? So here we have atherosclerosis in the brain. And it's either blockages in your blood vessels or when we get this plaque, the lining of the blood vessels gets very weak and it could actually rupture and cause internal bleeding. So if the artery actually bursts open and we have this internal bleeding, that's called an aneurysm. Now, a stroke of any matter is pretty serious, whether it's blockages or an aneurysm. An aneurysm, you have internal bleeding, it's life-threatening. The person will most likely die within a few minutes unless they care. And I know it's hard to imagine this, but I know Loyola Hospital in Maywood tries to tell people if there's symptoms of a stroke, you need to get that person to the hospital within 5 minutes. If they can get in an ER operating room within 5 minutes, there's a potential to save them. For an aneurysm, okay? If it's atherosclerosis and there's blockages, there's more likely a chance that person will survive because there's no internal bleeding. So here's signs and symptoms of a stroke. And they call it FAST. You have to get to the hospital fast, F-A-S-T. Their face may slump on half their side, an uneven facial expression. Their arm may droop or their leg might droop. They may not, one arm or leg may not work properly. They may have slurred speech, and it may seem like they're drunk because they're not making any sense or they're trying to talk and they're just blabbering. So we get to the hospital fast. Okay. And here's a more realistic version of what this might look like. Droopy eye, droopy mouth, arm and leg are not working right. Speech is not working right. Maybe half their mouth is not moving when they talk. Okay. Did someone have a question?
Yeah, just Patty. I was gonna ask you, so since you said you only have like 5 minutes to get to the hospital, what is the actual like surviving rate of people actually getting this?
I don't know. If somebody wants to Google that, they could. I don't know the actual percentage of survival with an aneurysm stroke. Now, with an aneurysm, my guess is the survival is a lot less than just atherosclerosis. Okay. An aneurysm anywhere in the human body is very serious because you have internal bleeding, whether it occurs in your brain or a blood vessel to your arm or leg. You can have an aneurysm in your aorta even, but that's very serious. Did somebody have another comment?
Yeah, I just brought up the statistic. It's 60%.
60% with an aneurysm in the brain?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for letting us know that. I don't want to go on to the next one yet. I'm going to tell you a quick story, and then even you guys, if you have a story about heart disease, heart attack or stroke. Um, my father did suffer from a stroke about 2 years ago. He doesn't live with me, but it was on New Year's Eve, and it was about 12:05. So we made it past midnight. He was at his home alone. I was at home with my husband and two kids. I had just put my kids to bed, and my phone was ringing. And I thought, oh, he's going to call to say Happy New Year. No, he called me to say, I can't move my left leg very well, and I'm not feeling good. So right when he said that, I can't move my left leg, I thought, oh, he might be having a stroke because I know the warning signs, right? If I look back at this slide here, it could be numbness. This one says arm, but it could also be the leg. And so I said to him, there's our options. We can call the ambulance or I'll come and get you. And he goes, well, it's not an emergency because I haven't been able to move my leg all day. And I said, well, why would you wait till midnight to call me? I could have brought you to the hospital earlier in the day. So I did end up going there. Now, had he not been able to stand up on his own, or if he was telling me that he had a severe headache, I would have called 911. A severe headache is really indicative of that bleeding in the brain. So, we have to use our best estimate. If you're ever wondering, should I call 911 or take the person myself? Probably call 911 because they can actually give them treatment, obviously, in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. So he made it to the hospital. He had a atherosclerosis. There was no aneurysm, thank God, and he survived, and he's perfectly fine now. Luckily, there was no permanent damage. With the atherosclerosis in the brain, they're able to give him blood thinners so that more blood can go past that blockage. And that's what they do in many cases of cardiovascular disease, is they'll put the individual on a blood thinner, try to get more blood flow through. What I can say about my family, and then maybe one of you would like to share a story. My grandfather did have an aneurysm. He was older, he was probably in his 80s. So my dad's dad, he had an aneurysm, and it was life-changing. He actually couldn't walk or talk after the aneurysm occurred. So he had a stroke and was completely non-functional. He did live, I bet you, about 5 more years, but in a hospital bed the whole time. My grandfather, who had the stroke, he has 3 sons. Each one of them has cardiovascular disease. So my dad has had a stroke and also an aneurysm in his aorta, which was luckily he was in the hospital for another condition when they found it, so they actually repaired it immediately. My other 2 uncles are both deceased from cardiovascular disease. The reason I'm bringing this up is we can see there's a huge genetic link, right? If someone in the family has it, there's a risk for others. Now, if we take these healthy lifestyle matters and really do what we're supposed to do, then you could prevent a major incident. You could prevent a heart attack or stroke if you take really careful precautions. If you know you have a genetic problem and you're smoking and you're eating poorly and you're stressed out and you're not sleeping, you're more than likely going to succumb to the cardiovascular disease. Does anyone else have a story they'd like to share on stroke or heart attack? So a lot of these strokes are caused by high blood pressure. And what happens is the aneurysms, when we have high blood pressure, it could spark an aneurysm to occur, because when we think of what blood pressure really is, it's the amount of pressure or force the blood exerts on the vessel wall. How hard is the blood hitting your blood vessel wall? And if it's hitting the blood vessel wall really high, in cases of hypertension, an aneurysm could occur and the blood vessel could break. Now, normal blood pressure, and I think this is on your final exam, normal blood pressure is 120/80, plus or minus 10, and you're fine. Women typically have a little lower blood pressure, maybe 110/70. But we need to be within normal ranges. Once we get to hypertension, which is 140 on top or 90 on bottom or higher, the risk of stroke and heart attack increase quite a bit. Okay? So remember these numbers, and that is hypertension. What causes it? I have the things on the screen right now. What causes it? Probably the most prominent things are smoking. If you know someone who does smoke, they probably have hypertension. It's when it's usually not even a question. If there's a person who smokes, almost every single one of them is going to have hypertension. Same thing with heavy alcohol use. 1 or 2 drinks a day, maybe no, but if they're binge drinking or drinking more than 1 or 2 drinks a day, it's going to lead to hypertension. And then too much salt in the diet or obesity. High cholesterol, look at this. Most high cholesterol is genetic, but then there's some other causes. 30% of it is poor diet. So if we're eating large amounts of calories over and above what we should be eating, especially if they're animal products, what's going to happen is our body's going to have to create LDL to carry the extra fat around the body, the nutrient of fat around the body. And so the more saturated fats or trans fats we eat, the more LDL our body's going to have to make to carry it around the human body. Okay, I do know a ton of people who have high cholesterol simply because of stress. And it's really unfortunate, but that is a main culprit for lots of people with high cholesterol. So remember, normal total cholesterol should be below 200. We want our lousy cholesterol low. We want our happy cholesterol high. So our lousy cholesterol should be, maybe about 100 or even less than that. Our happy cholesterol, I would like your happy cholesterol to be at least 50 or higher. Okay. Cardiac arrest, another type of cardiovascular disease. So for your discussion questions, so far your options for picking 3 diseases. We talked about coronary artery disease, we talked about stroke, we talked about hypertension. Now we're talking about a cardiac arrest where we can't normally circulate the blood. The heart's not contracting normally. It's an abnormal heart rhythm. Lots of things could cause a cardiac arrest where our heart is just not beating right. Most of them are coronary heart disease. Most of them are the coronary heart disease, which is the cardiovascular disease we talked about. Most of it's due to those coronary arteries getting atherosclerosis or heart attacks. But there's some other causes, and you can see them on your screen. Next disease is congestive heart failure. And if I get rid of the word congestive, scratch that out, and we just look at heart failure, your heart fails to work. Your heart is failing to pump enough blood through your body. 2 reasons this could happen. You have another disease like kidney disease, cancer, or it's from old age. And so as we get older in life, our organs and our systems start to slow down. Eventually, even if you don't get any other kind of illness or pathology, eventually your heart would give out, right? We don't have people living to 200 years old. And so when people say that, the person died of old age in their sleep, a lot of times their heart just failed to provide enough blood to the body. And the heart kind of just gave out or was so weak it couldn't work anymore. And that's called congestive heart failure, okay? Sometimes the heart will try to make up for the problems. But, here's some signs and symptoms of congestive heart failure: shortness of breath, coughing and wheezing, buildup of fluid in the lower body. If you ever see someone who has really extended, swollen legs, like their calves are huge, and they're building up fluid in the lower legs, it could be a sign of congestive heart failure, okay? The last disease we're going to talk about, it's not exclusive to cardiovascular diseases, but in fact, it's not even a disease. It's more like a pre-disease. It's called metabolic syndrome. And a person would be diagnosed with metabolic syndrome before they have a major disease. And it's like the precursor. You can see what some of these precursor signs are. They have high cholesterol or high blood pressure. They have high glucose, or their insulin is not working very well. Plus, they often have obesity. If a person has 3 or more of those measurements, they're termed to have metabolic syndrome. And I believe I have a slide here. It just it doubles, or in some cases increases your risk for disease by up to 5 times. So metabolic syndrome will increase your risk of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and so forth. Okay, I want to see if there was a question in the chat room really quick.
Yeah, it was just me. I was just going to ask if you could return to that previous slide, but you already answered it. I was okay.
The metabolic one?
Yeah, the one right before that one. The last slide before the before slide of the last one.
Is it this one or the next?
No, this is the one.
Oh, no, I changed it really quick. Hold on. It's going to come back. There you go. Yeah. So this is a pre-disease. So a person might have 3 or more of these problems: obesity, high cholesterol, low happy cholesterol, high blood pressure, increased glucose levels. They would have metabolic syndrome before they would get coronary artery disease, stroke, hypertension, congestive heart failure, or that cardiac arrest. So it would be a precursor.
With abdominal obesity, is that like when like people aren't necessarily fat, but like they have like more of their weight like focused in like the stomach area, and like when you will go to like a doctor, let's say, they will tell you have like you have like too much fat around your liver, for example. Would that be considered that?
I'm not sure about the liver with the abdominal obesity, but the abdominal obesity would be where most of their body fat is in their belly. I think a really rude nickname for it would be called like a beer belly, right? But fatty liver versus obesity is a little bit different. The abdominal obesity is how much body fat you have surrounding the center of your body. Whereas you could get something called fatty liver, where we're getting fat buildup even within the liver itself, not necessarily only around it, but even within the tissue itself, it's fat. And so fatty liver, there's several different causes for that. In our class, we have reviewed that even soda or diet soda contributes to that, as does alcohol or genetics. Okay, so here's the metabolic syndrome. Did someone else's hand go up?
No, but I did have another question. It was regarding I don't think I really had my question answered with like how do you reverse those LDLs? Was that was that with like the training part?
I didn't purposely answer it because I'm going to give you guys a short group assignment on it. So I'm not ignoring you, but I didn't want to give away your answer so you had nothing to talk about in your group. What I'm going to do is I want you guys to brainstorm about the causes of cardiovascular disease, and if we get rid of these causes, that's the treatment for cardiovascular disease. Now, I don't want you coming back saying to me, eat healthy and exercise, because everyone knows that, but I want you to get into the details of what does eating healthy mean? What should I increase in my diet? What should I get rid of in my diet? What kind of exercise can I do? And are there other things in my life I can change? So I'm going to actually have you guys go into a group and discuss that question. I'm only going to give you maybe 10 minutes. And then we're going to come back and I'll give you guys the answers, but I want to see what you've come up with. All right. Did somebody else have their hand up before we do that? No.
Yeah, Patty. Sorry.
Oh, I don't see your
I
hand
just
anymore.
have
Go
one
ahead,
last
Patty.
question before we start. Okay, so when you said that's how you fix your problem, do you mean just preventing future plaque or like completely, like slowly getting rid of the plaque, or is there no way to get rid of that already in your arteries?
Well, every person is different. I know you don't want to hear this answer. Every person is different, and it depends on where your starting point is when you initiate the interventions. You know, if we have someone who is already older and has significant plaque, it's going to be a lot harder to eradicate that than someone who has less development of the plaque, you know, based on when it began for their age. So what I can say, and I can show you guys a video in a while about reversing plaque, there has been many cases of people getting rid of plaque from their bodies. And it really depends a bit on their genetics, how much of these preventative methods they could incorporate into their life, and how bad the atherosclerosis was to begin with. So for some people, yes, they could probably get rid of most atherosclerosis. For other people who have really severe atherosclerosis before they begin treatment, they may not get rid of it all. Okay, so you understand that, Patty? All right, I don't have the yes or no answer for you,
Yeah,
but
sorry.
yeah, I don't have the exact yes or no answer for you, but I think you can understand where I'm coming from. And it's contingent on a lot of factors.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, let's see. We have 2 people left the class. And so we have 15 left. All right. So I think I'm going to break you in a group for just 10 minutes. We'll get back here at noon, and you guys tell me what you've discussed. What we're going to do is talk in your room about what foods you should eat to prevent cardiovascular disease or reverse it. What foods should we avoid so we don't get cardiovascular disease or get worse buildup of plaque? And then also a little, if there's any other lifestyle factors you want to contribute, right? If you want to talk about other things beside food, but have most of your focus be on food, at least for the first 5 minutes. You know, just have one person maybe write down the foods to eat, the foods to avoid, and just brainstorm. Okay? You understand? All right. I'm going to give you guys, looks like 4 groups of 4. And I'll pull you back here in about 10 minutes. Amelia, they are at, can you hear me? Okay, they're actually in a group. I'm going to see if I can add you to a group. They're doing a group assignment for the next 10 minutes on foods to eat and foods to avoid for cardiovascular disease. I don't know if I can add you to a group. Bear with me. I'm going to see if I can figure out how to do this. I think I'm going to.
Remember the last time you climbed a flight of stairs? Did you feel your pulse speed up and your face get warm? That's because of changes that happen in your heart during physical activity. Your heart's job is to move blood around your body, blood that contains oxygen which your muscles need to work. When you exercise, your muscles work harder and need more oxygen than when at rest. To deliver this oxygen, your heart starts to beat faster, which is why you feel your pulse speed up. When you exercise regularly, your heart gets used to moving more blood through your body. The left ventricle, the part of your heart that pumps out blood, make it bigger and stronger. And with each heartbeat pumping more blood, your heart has to beat less often to do the same job. This means both your heart rate during exercise and your resting heart rate will decrease. Regular exercise, in addition to a healthy diet and not smoking, can help prevent the buildup of plaques in your artery, reducing your risk of heart disease, heart attack, and stroke. Frequent exercise also causes new blood vessels to grow in your body. improving circulation and overall health. Not to mention helping you lose weight. And look, you climbed a flight of stairs. Remember,
besides vitamin K, considering that
Oh. I just heard a cat. Who's got a cat? You're all back, coming back into the main room now. I hope I didn't cut you off in the middle of your conversations.
You
Who has
cut
the
off the cat.
Who has the cat?
Wish I had a cat.
Somebody's cat just meowed.
I think it's Joe John's because his mic is lighting up every time it meows.
All right, so we're back here in the main room, guys. I think everybody but Deja is trying to reconnect still. All right. We were waiting on you, Deja, to reconnect. Okay. So hopefully you had some good conversation on foods to eat and foods to kind of avoid. I'm going to let you guys talk. Hold on a second. I just want to share my screen, but I want you to talk. Let's have group one go first. What kind of things did group 1 come up with in terms of foods to eat, foods to avoid, or others? And just talk for, just a couple minutes here. Someone in group 1 want to go? Anybody in group 1 want to talk about foods to improve, foods to decrease?
Can you say some names? Because I'm not really sure who's like in which group number.
I think we were group 1, Patty.
Oh, okay.
We
My group suggested some omega-3s,
Good.
which are good fats that kind of help pump those HDLs in your body.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
And then we tried to say stay away from foods that have high sodium. Like I would say most likely pork, and then unsaturated fats.
Stay away from them?
Yeah.
Well, definitely the fat is something we want to talk about. We do want to eat the polyunsaturated fats, which is omega-3 and omega-6. We do want to eat those. As far as the unsaturated, just keep it really moderate. We don't want to be, guzzling bottles of olive oil in large quantity or other liquid oils. But 1 tablespoon or 2 tablespoons should be okay. But we just don't want a huge amount. And then the fats we definitely want to avoid are saturated. Keep it minimal if you're using butter or if you're eating ground meats. Keep it minimal, but you can still do that safely. But it's the quantity is what we're worried about. Anything else? I was going to comment on the pork. Do you guys know that when you buy meat at the grocery store, there is typically like salt water in that to help preserve the meat? So you may be buying chicken or pork and think that it's just a piece of meat, but there usually is sodium in that to help it last longer, just so you know. Anything else from group 1?
Steering clear from trans fat.
Yes, avoiding that in all cases. The hydrogenated oils, very good. Group 2, do you have any comments on what to improve or decrease? Maybe you don't know who's in group 2. How about group 3? Or anybody else in class want to share what you found? Let's get away from the groups if you're confused what group you are in.
Okay, so I was in group 2.
Okay.
Some of what we suggested was to avoid bacon, greasy food, any like fat type of cheese, to prevent clogged arteries, like the plaque buildup. And then some things that they mentioned to possibly like eat is like what did we say? Like beans, lentils, oats, fish, like the omega-3s and everything. And then someone also mentioned that working out would probably help too, like exercise.
Very good. All correct answers. I'm glad that you mentioned beans. Those are one of the most healthy foods that we could possibly have. As is oats. Remember that I said that was the best option to lower bad cholesterol, was oats. And then one other thing I want to add is veggies. I don't know if you guys have said that yet, but sweet potatoes are very, very good. I hear some beeping in the background. I'm going to check the chat room while maybe another person wants to go. Somebody doesn't like my oats. Fatty fish, Jamaria said fatty fish is what we should eat. Turmeric and citrus foods, very good, Jamaria. All right, is another group want to mention some foods to eat or some foods to avoid? Philip.
Berries help with cardiovascular disease.
Very good. Anybody else go? I just heard another Hand going up.
No hand, just comment. I just said that you have to eat whole instead of like eating processed foods and eat more home instead of eating out.
Very, very good. If we summarized our entire class, that would be the sentence. Eat whole foods rather than the processed food and try to prepare your foods at home. When we're eating foods that are in restaurants, they tend to be high fat, high salt, high calorie. Laura, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I remember what you said about like sweet potatoes and like foods with like really colorful colors. I think those are good too to like reduce the plaque in arteries.
Very good. Very good. Sweet potatoes and very colorful fruits and vegetables. The color is telling us they're loaded with antioxidants, right? And those antioxidants, vitamin and mineral, they help us prevent not only cardiovascular disease, but also cancer. Anybody else want to comment? And then I'm going to have a couple slides that I'll show you. We definitely want to exercise, right? That helps improve our HDL. 30 or more minutes per day. Even walking will do that. Let me show you the foods on my slide that I have for increasing. So if we want to get rid of plaque or prevent it in the first place, we're going to want to have a lot of these foods and think positive about food. These are the foods that you say to yourself, what do I want to eat a lot of? Okay, don't think of eating food as something negative. We think of it as, this is our medicine, right? What should we eat a lot of in our day? Whole grains, complex carbohydrates, fish at least twice a week. Omega-3s in dark green leafy vegetables, fish, soy, nuts, seeds. Fiber, at least 25 or more grams per day. Folate, and you could get that in dark green leafy vegetables or if a supplement, or multivitamin. Fruits and veggies. Now, as your main fat, you could probably use olive oil or safflower oil. But what I'm saying that is, right, limit what it is, like 1 tablespoon or 2 per day. Don't go as much as you want in terms of oils, the liquid oils. We want to minimize those, but you can still, if you're choosing to use them, olive or safflower would probably be your best. I'm purposely avoiding corn because it's probably GMO, genetically modified. And plant sterols is a compound within plants, fruits and vegetables, or grains that has been known to help prevent cardiovascular disease. So these are the foods we want to increase. Fruits, vegetables, fish, lots of vitamins and minerals, lots of whole grains. And these are the things we're going to limit. Now, I'm not going to say you can never have these again, but most of your food should come off that other slide. And even when we talk about diabetes and cancer, it's the same stuff. So we're going to limit processed food and sugar. We're going to limit trans fat, limit saturated fat. You can still have a little bit of butter, a little bit of dairy, but we're just going to limit it to like no more than 2 servings per day. Limit the red meat, alcohol, sodium, no more than 1,500 milligrams per day. Limit fried foods and limit eating out. Okay. I had a couple videos I want you to watch. Exercise is definitely very important, as is modifying your stress. Trying not to be in a hurry constantly or cynical or hostile or angry at things. Even if we are, let's try to have some stress management because there's going to be times we're not going to be happy. Okay, I want to show you, we have 5 minutes. I want to show you a couple of videos, and we do have time for these. This is the video that talks about could eating healthy prevent or reverse heart disease.
Sanjay, you spent the last year looking into heart attack and heart disease for your special. You have a history of it in your family, and you've really studied how people can get away from that and get out from under that. What if you don't want to use medicine, statins, to reduce your risk of heart attack? Can you really use food as medicine?
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, Hippocrates has talked about this for more than 1,000 years, and I walked into this with an open mind. The answer is definitely yes, you can. We did find living proof of this. Sharon Kintz is a woman that we profiled, 66 years old, had a heart attack, was was told by her doctor she needed to have heart surgery, and she said no. And she basically adopted this plant-based diet. As you can see there, she's been very strict about it. Whole grains, lots of vegetables, and doing it for over a year. And it's quite remarkable, not only in how much she has not had any symptoms of heart problems, but also in terms of her energy levels. And this is something that I really focused on with her. She could barely walk before all of this, and literally now, a year later on this plant-based diet, she's able to jump rope. I mean, take a look at that, Allie. She couldn't do that before, and I'm not saying that obviously being on a plant-based diet taught her how to jump rope. People always question, do you have enough energy still on one of these diets?
Right.
And we profiled her just to demonstrate.
Is there science that proves it's working other than the fact that she can jump rope and she's fit?
Well, yes, there's a couple of different things. First of all, people really oftentimes want objective signs to show that there's changes in someone's blood vessels. And we talked about this before, Allie, not just in terms of showing a slowing of heart disease, but an actual reversing of heart disease. In order to prove that, a patient would have to undergo another angiogram. Sharon's doing so well, she said she had no need to undergo an angiogram. But let me show you a patient who did do that. And this is over a period of a few years. Take a look over here, and I don't know if you can appreciate this, where the arrow is. This is a coronary blood vessel, and this is what one of those narrowings looks like. This is what a heart attack waiting to happen looks like. This is someone who decided not to undergo surgery, which was recommended, instead using food as medicine. And take a look now over here, same spot, and that coronary blood vessel is essentially, it's opened up. It's about the same normal caliber as the rest of the blood vessel. That is sort of what we're talking about here, Allie, in terms of, providing some sort of objective evidence. Remarkably, despite the fact that, again, Hippocrates has talked about this for over 1,000 years, this is still a relatively nascent science. I think more studies are going to be done to see more images like that.
And these patients that have been profiled who have followed these diets to reduce their clogging of their arteries, have they prevented heart attacks?
Well, let me tell you, yes. And let me tell you the study that basically pivoted me into saying we should do this as a full hour. It's still a relatively small study because this is some emerging science, but Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, basically he followed patients for 12 years. And what he found was that 6 patients out of a group of about 18 dropped out of the study. And out of those 6 patients, they all had some sort of coronary event. 2 patients died, 4 patients needed bypass surgery. Of the patients who stayed through, kept the diet, kept it going for 12 years, so most patients were able to do that, only 1 patient died, and in an autopsy, that patient did not have any evidence of heart disease. So again, Allie, the evidence is pretty compelling, not only in terms of slowing down the progression, but really reversing it. These patients needed to have heart surgery, and then they essentially needed no interventions whatsoever over a 12-year period.
That is incredible that you can undo that damage.
Now, one of the things, guys, with these diets is they're very strict. They're very, very strict diets. And I think a lot of times the doctors are hesitant to tell people to do it because they're not sure if they could be compliant. It's almost fully plant-based. Whole grains, vegetables, fruits, beans, nuts, seeds, very little, if any, animal products. If we put 10% animal products or oils in there, that would be probably the max with these diets that are reversing heart disease. And let me show you a quick video here on how exercise improves.
Remember the last time you climbed a flight of stairs? Did you feel your pulse speed up and your face get warm? That's because of changes that happen in your heart during physical activity. Your heart's job is to move blood around your body, blood that contains oxygen which your muscles need to work. When you exercise, your muscles work harder and need more oxygen than when at rest. To deliver this oxygen, your heart starts to beat faster, which is why you feel your pulse speed up. When you exercise regularly, your heart gets used to moving more blood through your body. The left ventricle, the part of your heart that pumps out blood, make it bigger and stronger. And with each heartbeat pumping more blood, your heart has to beat less often to do the same job. This means both your heart rate during exercise and your resting heart rate will decrease. Regular exercise, in addition to a healthy diet and not smoking, can help prevent the buildup of plaques in your arteries, reducing your risk of heart disease, heart attack, and stroke. Frequent exercise also causes new blood vessels to grow in your body, improving circulation and overall health. to mention helping you lose weight and look and feel better, while chronic inactivity can lead to weight gain, high blood pressure, and cardiovascular disease. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommends that adults get at least 150 minutes of exercise per week. Any length or intensity of activity is healthier than no activity at all. So start at your own pace. Try taking a few short walks a day, climbing a few flights of stairs, and notice as your heart gets healthier.
Okay, guys, I just want to show you one other thing. I know I'm a minute over, and that is in your learning module, you're going to need to click on this Harvard Health Heart Disease Risk Calculator for your discussion. One of your discussion is what is your risk level for developing cardiovascular using this Harvard Health. I did it while you guys were in your group, and there's not a percentage that's going to come up, but just put this: your risk is very much below average, and that's my actual risk. I was happy to see that. So put down what that states based off of your information you put in that questionnaire. They're going to ask you questions on your age and what you eat and things like that. Okay. Thank you for giving me 1 extra minute of your day today, and I will see you guys on Thursday. Okay. If you if you were here to give me a date for your presentation, I got you for attendance. If you were not here and gave me a date of your presentation, then raise your hand. Tori, did you have a question?
So I'm not sure if you marked me absent or no, because I was trying to speak through mic, it didn't work, and then I was trying to text, and I could hear you, but I couldn't do anything.
Oh, yeah, Victoria, I do have you for attendance, and I don't know if you heard me, but I did have you down to go on December 1st for your flyer.
Yes, I heard that.
Okay, yeah, you're good then.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, Patty? Okay, bye-bye. Anybody else have a comment or question? Have a good day, everyone. Let me see, Amelia. Hold on. Yeah, I got you down. Amelia, you're going on December 3rd for your flyer. For your presentation on your flyer. Okay? I got you down for attendance then. Have a good day, Amelia.